Welcome back to the Free Code Camp podcast. I'm Quincy Larson, teacher and founder of freeCodeCamp.org. And today we're talking with Andrea Griffiths, who moved to the U.S. from Colombia at age 17, joined the military, taught herself programming using freeCodeCamp, and now works at GitHub. First, I want to share some community news. freeCodeCamp just published this beginner-friendly back-end development course. It'll teach you how to build your own web servers and APIs using Node, Express, MongoDB, and freeCodeCamp's website and mobile app are built using these very same tools, which make up the popular MERN stack. You'll also get some exposure to database architecture, security principles, testing best practices, and more. It's a 2-hour YouTube course. Watch it after you finish listening to this conversation. freeCodeCamp also published a comprehensive Blender and 3JS course where you'll build your own 3D portfolio piece, a render of an adorable home office. If you're watching the video version, you can see what this looks like. It's incredible. You're going to build this. If you're interested in 3D rendering and computer graphics, this is the course for you. You'll learn key concepts like quad topology, raycasting, orbit controls, and more. And by the end of the course, you'll have your own 3D model that can live on the web so you can share it with your friends, share it with potential future employers. This is a 9-hour course on the freeCodeCamp YouTube. freeCodeCamp also published a handbook on using Docker with Node.js. You'll learn how to set up Docker and Docker Compose. You'll also learn fundamental concepts like volumes, images, containers. This is an excellent resource for you to read through and code along with. Bookmark it for future reference. That's the full-length handbook on freeCodeCamp's publication. All of this is free. It should go without saying, everything I ever talk about on freeCodeCamp is free. Next, learn clean code best practices. You may have heard the term clean code. Well, we've got a new course that will help you level up your JavaScript implementation skills. And you're going to learn how to detect code smells. Code smells, I'm holding my nose. And refactor your JavaScript accordingly. You'll also learn how to use the ESLint and Prettier libraries to automate some of the more error-prone aspects of shipping code. That's a 1-hour course on the freeCodeCamp YouTube. And I'm hyped to say that the classic text adventure games Zork 1, 2, and 3 are now open source with an MIT license. Microsoft has published their full source code on GitHub. You can check it out. Link in the description if you want to play. Good luck getting past the mailbox. I spent like 10 minutes. I couldn't figure out how to get past the mailbox. All right. And song of the week is the classic 1985 song, Something About You by Level 42. I love the slap bass. I love the vocal harmonies, the falsetto, and the huge synth sounds. It's impossible to listen to this song and still be in a bad mood. Support for this podcast is provided by a grant from AlgoMonster. AlgoMonster is a platform that teaches data structure and algorithm patterns in a structured sequence so you can approach technical interview questions more systematically. Their curriculum covers patterns like sliding window, two-pointers, graph search, and dynamic programming, helping you learn each pattern once and apply it to solve many problems. Start a structured interview prep routine at algo.monster/freecodecamp. Support also comes from the 10,338 kind folks who donate to our charity each month. Join them and support our mission at donate.freecodecamp.org. And if you haven't gotten a freeCodeCamp shirt yet, you totally should. Represent our community with pride. You can get this same black tri-blend shirt that I'm wearing for just $20. Free shipping anywhere in the U.S. Go to shop.freecodecamp.org. For today's interview, we're talking with Andrea Griffiths, who taught herself programming using freeCodeCamp while working in construction. She moved to the U.S. from Colombia when she was 17, and within 6 months, she made the fateful decision to join the U.S. Army. Yes, she was still 17. Her mom signed the paperwork for her. She ran a chain of gyms before landing a support role at a tech company and then ascended to product manager and ultimately developer advocate at GitHub. We're going to talk about tips for busy parents who want to learn new skills, how AI tools are no substitute for your own critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and how even though today it's easier and easier to learn programming for free online, people are so distracted, and for many, it just feels harder and harder to sit down and do it. Andrea Griffiths, welcome to the Free Code Camp podcast.
Thank you, Quincy. I can't believe I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah. This has been a long time in the making. You were on the Free Code Camp Spanish podcast like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And my Spanish is not that great. So I didn't have the benefit of fully understanding everything in that podcast, but I'm going to clarify a lot of that today. I want to start off with just learning a little bit more about how things are changing in software development. You first started learning programming using Free Code Camp
Yes.
and other free learning resources back in 2016. What have been the biggest changes since then to the software development field?
Wow, so many, especially recently, right? And my God, thank you, because Free Code Camp, I legit owe my career to it. I'm sure I'm not the only person that said this to you, but when I started and I discovered Free Code Camp back in 2016, for me it was revolutionary, right? There was no other resource out there that had the structure, that clear path that I could then just follow. And especially because I was doing this while working, I needed something that was structured, but also I could break up into chunks, which is the beauty of Free Code Camp, right? So I would follow 15-minute chunks. You didn't have prerequisites. I didn't need to take a test to get started. I didn't need to have a fundamental knowledge of computer science or anything at all to get started. So you kind of prove that if you have internet access and consistency, you can learn to code. At least that was my experience. And now we fast forward 10 years and I'm doing the work that I do at GitHub, where I get to teach developers how to, use AI like GitHub Copilot, how to incorporate open source software into anything that they're doing, they're growing, they're developing. I use Copilot a lot to learn new concepts, with the understanding of fundamentals that I got from Free Code Camp. I think one of the most important things that I learned then and that I encourage people to learn now, it's that key fundamentals, like learning how to learn and breaking problems down. That's something that comes very natural to some people. For me, I had to really learn how to break things apart because I always been a go 1,000 miles an hour person. And when I started to learn to program in Free Code Camp, I thought I would just, hack it all out. And like a month later, I will have all the certificates and off I go into my new career and my new life. Well, no, I had to hit the brakes and really learn to break up our problems and learn that focus on fundamentals. That's something that Free Code Camp taught me how to learn. Learning to think critically is more the problem now. I think when I see, for example, my own usage of tools like Copilot, and some suggestions are great and some others are just setting me up for failures later on. So it's changed a lot in the past 10 years. I'm happy because you kind of broke the barrier to access and proved that people without computer science degrees could get jobs and have brilliant careers. Now we're in a different reality where there is more access, but we're sort of missing having that deep understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I think you hit on is just that needing to slow down. A lot of people, I think,
Yes.
don't necessarily have the restraint and the self-discipline to slow down because they're so used to things happening really quickly for them. And in a way, I think AI tools can be like a huge handicap for people because they can allow them to continue to move very quickly without ever really having to slow down and invest the time in learning the critical thinking and the problem solving skills that you, for example, had to force yourself to slow down and learn along the way. And a lot of that is not intuitive and it's not very fun. And if your brain is not used to slowing down, and if it's been a long time since you were in school, for example,
Yes.
learning math problems and stuff, you may have lost that skill. Those muscles may have atrophied. So it sounds like that was a huge part of your journey, was just learning to slow down and not be the, hey, I'm going to get everything done in a month type person.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I was forced to learn within the constraints of what we had, right? Like I started learning obviously in Free Code Camp and then looking at other free resources. I started to look at Ruby because I like the syntax. It was friendly to me. It was for me. And now looking back, I mean, I give myself all kinds of different advice, but the one key thing though was having that mind shift change and understanding that, yes, no, I needed to learn why things work the way they did. And I apply that still to this day. I think thinking about it, now I have the great privilege. I'm in this industry now, so this is literally my job. But back then, where all I had was an hour at lunch, I needed to make the absolute most of that hour. And going at it like just full speed and without structure was not going to help me. So I still apply that to how I learn now. I think that's one of the most important things I learned from freeCodeCamp is just learning how to learn, and that chunking out of time and breaking problems apart, which so much of it is like what engineering is.
Yeah, and I do want to shout out Barbara Oakley, Dr. Barbara Oakley, who teaches the Learn How to Learn course and has written a book, Learn How to Learn. It gives you strategies and kind of a toolkit for understanding the way that your human brain absorbs things and makes those connections and actually is able to surface and use those things. Spaced repetition, interleaving practice, lots of other concepts that go into actually learning something really well. And that is something that we've deeply integrated into the freeCodeCamp curriculum. In fact, we explicitly cover that now. Before, it was just kind of implicit in the way we built it, but I actually, in the first few minutes you're on freeCodeCamp, after you finish the first demo project, you start learning about those concepts, because I think those are very important for getting the determination and kind of the discipline necessary. And half the battle is just knowing, right? Knowing is half the battle. And once you understand those things, then it becomes a lot easier to, I guess, tell yourself what you need to do every day, and not delude yourself into thinking, oh, I'll just, drink a bunch of coffee and I'll stay up really late at night and I'll just grind through all this, because that's not how the human brain works generally. That's suboptimal.
Absolutely. And listen, that's something that now I see, and I think my soul leaves my body once a day when there's so many young founders out there, and it's not all about the grind, my friends. And those are lessons that you learn with time, honestly, like with the benefit of time in hindsight. Like, yeah, fast forward 10 years and I approach learning a lot differently, only because I had those lessons and I was able to like take that to heart and apply it. So that's a good resource. I'm going to check that out. I feel like I seen her podcast. She might have been on Hoverman or something that I listened to.
Yeah, she's prolific, and she's been doing this for 10 years, at least 12 years.
Amazing.
She's got her Learn How to Learn course in her book. Strong recommend. I'll put a link to it in the description. The thing that I want to talk to you about starting off is you have worked as a product manager, which is different from a project manager. If you've heard the term PM, a lot of times PM refers to a product manager. A lot of times it refers to a project manager. A PM or a product manager is essentially overseeing one aspect of like a software platform, like GitHub, for example. Can you talk about what it is like being a product manager and just what the role entails real quick?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was like a really interesting part of my career at GitHub. I've been at GitHub for a long time now. So I've had the sort of the joy of being in different roles, and being in product was one of them. And we were looking at product a lot different than I think some companies do. And especially at the moment in time where I was in product at GitHub, we were just coming into like the ramp up to the acceleration that was the launch of Copilot and all these things. So a lot of things were in flux and changing super, super fast. I think product managers at GitHub, even from the time that I was a product manager in 2022, 23, till now, has changed so much, only because the industry is also changing. So yes, there's still product owners and there's still the people. I feel like product managers get such a bad vibe and like a bad reputation because, there's too many memes about some of us. But the reality is that these are people that take the ownership of the work that engineers are doing, right? So it's very different from what I'm doing now in many ways, but also sort of the same. I enjoyed my time in product because I had an opportunity to have full context of not only, oh, these are the internals, these are the things that we're building, and this is how we're looking at it as a company, like roadmap-wise or resources, investment-wise. But also I had the power of the context of the community and being able to understand code and being able to say, I use the tool, right? I think that's one key thing. If you're in product, you need to start drinking your own champagne. You need to be able, maybe you don't have the super deep knowledge of whatever thing is getting rewritten in Rust, and I don't write Rust. Doesn't matter. You should still sort of make the effort to understand it in both a technical and core levels, but also from a usability point of view. That was great at GitHub, that the PM organization at the time was very focused on like learn by doing, which we were shipping things so fast. I mean, it's not slow down. But I had the privilege of being at a point in time where we were looking at things that mattered to me, like localization of certain aspects of the platform. Like when the discussions feature was launched at GitHub, like I was part of the effort to get it to where you were able to actually post discussions in multiple languages. So it was things in the platform that were super kind of niche. They called to me because I am forged by community and I am not an English native speaker. So things like that are always going to be dear and near to me. But understanding how the business look at that as a potential add-on business value to the platform users, and then taking the ownership of taking that feature from idea to ship to now is core to anything we do, like localization and internalization of some of the even more core features in the platform. You don't even think about it twice. It feels like it should have always been there, right? We're nowhere near done. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done there, but it was a great opportunity for me to not only like sort of test those skills that I felt like I've been working towards having the understanding of the technology, but also think a little bit more business minded and also pull in the interest of the community there. So there's still product managers at GitHub. There's program managers at GitHub. There is project managers at GitHub. I think at the end of the day, the one common thread on all this, I guess, professions, at least at GitHub, is that they're all owners of a specific point, a specific feature or a specific characteristic of what GitHub does. Some people get to lean more into the technical parts of implementation and truly look at roadmaps and truly look at realistically, what are we going to ship? I loved it. I love being in product in that point of time because it allowed me to sort of apply my technical skills and my understanding of code and my understanding of GitHub as a platform, having been from like, I started in support. So I feel like it was full arc. Like I was a user, I had my gripes, I still have my gripes. I work here, I still have my gripes. But then being in support and seeing how that relationship changes when you are the one that has to answer why this does not work. It doesn't make any sense, to actually being part of the team that's thinking through how things are implemented and how features get prioritized. That was super fun. I really enjoy my time in product. I like what I do now better, I think, because it's more of a
and right now
full-
you're doing
yeah.
developer advocacy.
Yes. So I'm a developer advocate now. I've been with the DevRel team for, I guess it's coming up on 3 years. So like I don't own any part of the GitHub Copilot roadmap or GitHub roadmap at all. So it's not up to me to decide like what we ship or what we prioritize. But I think I have an even better role in that I do get to own the understanding of how developers might actually use the tools, how they're using them now in the real world. And I get to see when they succeed, why they succeeded, how we can help make sure that everyone succeeds, and think through what they might need that we don't even know exists yet. And even developers might not know what exists yet. So it's a funner, it's more like like a science fiction PMing. I don't know what to
So it's
compare
like,
it to.
you're kind of like coming up with crazy ideas and like seeing whether they can actually be implemented and whether people could actually use them, I guess, because it's easy to come up with like ideas, but an idea that's actually usable and is viable to execute.
For sure.
That's a specific, yeah.
And like for the time at PMing and still now, like, metrics drive a lot of the work that gets done. And this is all companies, like if you don't have data, it's going to be very hard for you to succeed. And even though you might be looking at adoption metrics a certain way and the numbers don't lie, sure, but there's sometimes some things that are so culturally nuanced, and developers, we're an interesting breed. I think the numbers sometimes don't define us in a lot of ways. And so it's great for me because I get to talk to the people who are actually like creating the features, right? Like these engineering teams that are like, okay, this is the first shipped. Everything that ships at GitHub is first being staff shipped. So we get to test it first. We get to give those teams feedback. And, my usage of it might not be as deep as some of our larger enterprises, but still we get that feeling of like, okay, how big is that bridge between like what we're shipping and are developers actually going to use this? Is it actually worth it? So yeah, super important to have sort of that technical credibility in DevRel too, because I can't be talking to developers if I don't understand the technology that I'm sort of
Right.
talking about, right?
Yeah.
But also I get to have to focus on the more nuanced things, and I get to focus on the developer love and the things that really surprise and delight you.
Yeah. Well, I am very excited to hear about your journey through support into working as a product manager and ultimately as a developer advocate. I want to go back a little ways because you have had a very interesting, non-conventional path into technology that I absolutely want to highlight. Maybe you can walk us through your life leading up to, I think you were 17 years old and you had your mom
Yeah.
sign the paperwork for you to join the U.S. military. Like, what were those first years like leading up to that moment?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I have the most zigzaggy career path in the world, but it's great. I think it's definitely forged who I am today. I mean, I honestly I joined the service because I felt like I had to, and it sounds hella cheesy, but I stand by my stand, man. And now I have a 13-year-old, and as they get closer to 17, which is the age when I join, I'm like, my mind cannot compute. I don't think I was ready to make the decisions that I made then, but I'm very grateful for my time in the service. I did it because I felt like I owe this country everything, and I still do. So to me, it was important to give back. Um, Maybe there were other ways that I could have done it, but at the time, that was sort of what I had. We emigrated from Colombia to the US. I didn't have any possibilities of going to school. Like, that wasn't a path that I thought, okay, well, you graduate high school and now you're looking at colleges and off you go to university. And like, that was never in my roadmap. So I moved to a place where all of a sudden those possibilities were real. And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean people here can be whatever they want? Like, that to me, like, my brain could not understand it. So I felt like I had to do something. Like, there was a piece of service that needed to be given back. And I thought, you know what, I can do this. I'll go in and join for 4 years. I met my recruiter. I started taking like English as a second language classes outside college. And that's what I met my recruiter. And I was like, shoot, I saw the American flag and the eagle flying by, and I still cry when I listen to some of the songs, for real, because it's genuinely core to who I am. I went in the army, very bushy, what is it, bushy tail and bright eye. Learned
Yes,
a lot.
bushy-tailed and bright-eyed.
Bushy-tailed and bright-eyed, yeah.
Like a little doe, like a little deer.
If you look at I just shared that picture because Veterans Day was not, it was a few weeks from the time that we're recording this, and I shared that picture on social. It's like your first picture you get taken on basic training. It's like day 2 or something. So you're still smiling, right? And you don't look too tired. And I'm like standing there just holding my M16A2, like 17-year-old with perfectly arched eyebrows because I had just gone and gotten them done. I had no idea what the hell I was getting into, but I'm grateful for that time. It definitely helped me grow, mature, taught me English. That was my free code camp for English.
Yeah.
Going in the military, taught me English, taught me about service and being part of something bigger than you. That's something that I still to this day carry. Like, I think I have a servant mind and in my leadership style, in the way that I work with others, so much so because of that time in the military. So I joined, I did the things, and I thought it was going to be a life story. Like Quincy, I was convinced. I only got out of the military to finish college. I had like a semester left. I was going at the same time, not for what I wanted to go to school at, but for what I could get to the path to the quickest, get a degree. Because I understood one thing, and that's that I needed to have a degree. At that time, it was sort of hammered into my brain. How can I make sure that the one thing that was impossible for me to attain in Colombia, I could for sure have here? And the Army did that for me, right? Like, they paid for my college. I studied while I was in the field. I studied while I was, at nights, on the weekends. And so I got out with a few time left in school, and I thought I'll come back in as an officer and I'll stay there till the day I die because, my gosh, I was proud of my service and proud of my country. But then, of course, life happens and things change. And I went a completely different path after. I still work as a contractor and a civil servant for several years. Still working with soldiers, still working, sort of doing similar things that I was doing in the Army, but just living a completely different life. I'm glad I did. I don't think I had the family I do now if I had stayed in. I definitely wouldn't have had the life experiences that I've had now. But it was a long road to get from that to like trying to build a career outside of the military. It's so tough. those transitions are not easy. Nothing prepares you for that, especially I'm thinking now I have a 13-year-old and I'm like, okay, like in 4 years, oh, even closer, my goddaughter who's going to be a senior in high school next year. And she's like, now she's going on her college tours and things. And I'm like, my gosh, like I will die if she came up to me and was like, I'm joining the army. I'll be like, absolutely not. We're going for a walk. Like this is not happening. Because, I don't think your brain is developed enough, honestly, to make those kind of decisions. But for some of us, like I needed opportunity, I needed structure, and the army was there. And it was like, my God, like I learned things there that I don't think I could have learned in any university, honestly. So I'm grateful for that time. It was a period in time. Glad I did it. And then I got out and I worked as both a government contractor and as a civil servant for several years before landing in sort of a family-owned entrepreneurial situation.
Yes, please talk about that. Is this the gyms?
Yeah,
you had a chain of 3 gyms, like health clubs that you were in.
Yeah. So I lived in a really tiny town. I stayed at my last duty station, which was in Louisiana, and I stayed there. And it was a very small town. And this is like, now we think about gyms that have access like all hours. Like it's, okay, yeah, of course, there is like 1 million. At the time, there wasn't. Like this was something new that you were kind of sort of, I think even the technology to like unlock doors. Like I remember the first things that we used, and I think about it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, now you could do so much more. But like even just bringing that like key fob technology to a tiny little town of however many hundred people, like it was different. So it was a good opportunity there. And it was sort of a family-owned thing. I was able to help them grow the endeavors and extend it into even smaller towns. I used to drive a ton around Louisiana, like scouting spaces and then doing build-ups. It's fun. It was fun. I think I've always been a builder. Like it's interesting because now it's like I build software things, but I've always been someone that likes to see an empty room and think, what can I make here? Like, what can I do? And that allowed me opportunity to do that. So it was interesting. I've been interested in fitness. I wouldn't say like to the degree where I was like, oh my gosh, this is my absolute passion. But it is kind of cool to see people change their life. And I did get an opportunity to do that. Being a club manager, like operator, I did get to see some of those folks that would like, yeah, I don't think I can, get on that treadmill every day to like being the gym rats that are now like all about health and focus and they're looking good, they're feeling good. Like that was really cool. I like that. And then growing a business, in a really rural type areas with a very interesting demographic was interesting. Now without challenges, fighting with people to pick up their plates. We were making a joke about this earlier.
Yeah. At the gym, people never like they never re-rack the weights.
Freaking don't. And it's absolutely infuriating when you have to be the person that goes by and picks them up. But it was great. I learned a lot about not just like opening businesses and like the politics of it, because small towns, like getting the licenses, like having the chamber of commerce there when you're opening the gym. Like there's so many things that you don't even think about nowadays because there is a lot more resources and access to information. But back then I had to learn. I remember I was doing like my own marketing, like schemes, things like for the newspaper, Quincy. We advertise in newspapers back then. So it's doing this, this time of year, like coming up into Christmas was my favorite time of year because this is when everybody starts getting like they think they're going to join the gym January 1st. They're going to. And I would get like the drives of membership and all that, running all those ideas and like kind of designing systems around that. It was super interesting. Exciting times. Not what I wanted to do forever, but it was an opportunity, like just the situation I was in. I'm glad I did it. It was a good learning experience. Being in that position, like you work so much harder when you're doing your own thing. It's unbelievable. Like you really do though. Like I remember thinking at one point, like this is wild. Like, cause you're always on. Right? There is something happening. Something's out at 1 a.m. Somebody's there and wants to use it. Guess what? Your phone's going to ring and you got to show up. So I think my time in the service kind of helped with that because I was used to being like, everything was kind of do or die. Like there were no small problems. And I approached my style of working there like that. Not the healthiest way, but it was just all I knew, right? I was like, yeah, this is the absolute most important thing. I will go take care of it right now.
So a lot of people would perceive running a bunch of gyms, helping expand this family business as kind of like an endpoint in your career. Like you could easily just stop there and do that long term. What inspired you to move on and start learning programming and moving in a more technical direction?
I love that question because part of it is like personal circumstances. Like I needed to leave where I was. I needed to physically move, and the business was there. So if I physically moved, I couldn't take the business with me. But part of it actually is a lesson on staying somewhere too long. It's something that I since learned. I think I was ready to make a change long before. But it's hard. You get on those loops of convenience and comfort, and it was scary to make a change. It was scary to try and think that I could have a career outside of that or do something else. I think when I left my civil service job, it was such a pivotal moment into like, okay, if you're going to do this, it's because you're really going to be like independent. You're not going to go work. Because that's like, I don't know, at the time to me, having a government job was like the pinnacle of, wow, you're going to be a GS, you're going to be in this system forever and have a great retirement and all that. But I stayed there too long. I'm glad that personal circumstances forced me to look outside of that convenience loop and stretch myself. So just word of the wise to people who might be in a position where they don't want to be in, but it's kind of scary and uncomfortable. Like push through, because the other side is so much worth it. Like I'm so grateful that happened in my life at the time it did, because now I wouldn't change the life, the family I have for anything. So I don't know, maybe I would be making more money now, but who knows? But I definitely find a lot more, like, I would say I'm more mentally satisfied with my career at this time, for sure. No more cleaning after gym bros. So that's nice.
Not cleaning up after gym bros. I hear you. Well, you are getting to do a broad array of different things, and you've held so many different roles at different tech companies, including GitHub. Mm-hmm. And so I have to imagine that experience is worth something in terms of just being a richer, more fulfilling memory. Like you're not just doing the same thing for 30 years or something like that, right?
For sure.
And then are you able to work remotely now?
Yeah, so I'm based out of Florida. Like I've been remote since before the pandemic, and it's been great. The first time I worked at GitHub, I was in person. I lived in San Francisco, but now I'm back, I'm here, and honestly, it will take a lot for me to go in the office. Like, I love having, this is like, to me, success. This is success. I can do this in the middle of the day. My kids are home this week from school, and I can still like spend time with them. So it's nice to have the flexibility of remote. I think we work a lot harder when you work remote, by the way. Don't at me. There'll be people who will be contrarian to this, but I think you do, though, because in a ways, it's also like you are an owner, because you always feel like there is always to do. I need to work on my balance on that, but I'm not one. I have Slack on my phone. I'm working on it to where when I walk out of the office, I don't walk out with a small laptop with me, which I was doing that forever. I've been working on it with my therapist to make sure that I stop doing that, because it's not healthy. But I think that you do, it's kind of harder to blur that line between when you stop your work day and you start whatever your rest of your day. But I love being able to work remote. It's great.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your path into tech. Mm-hmm. First of all, I agree with you on remote. And I also agree that it's very important to be able to disconnect. And if you had the luxury of having an additional room in your house, or even a desk, like I use my closet. I just had a desk in my closet and I went in there and worked. Then I would come out and hang out with the family. Mm-hmm. And that was extremely useful. Now that I'm back in Texas, like you can get a lot bigger of a place than you can in downtown, like San Francisco, or I was actually in East Bay. I couldn't afford to live in San Francisco when I was in the Bay Area. And you have a little bit more room, but having like a dedicated space that you work, you can kind of mentally put yourself like almost as though you were in an office. But then you can close the door and walk out, and you're not working anymore.
Exactly. It's so tough to do. So, and thank you for mentioning that, because it could literally be a closet, or it could be the corner of the room.
Yeah. So one of the things that is unique about your story is you went through support. Like a lot of people, while they're learning programming, they'll work in different roles within software development, but support is, I mean, pretty much every consumer-facing and even like enterprise-type company is going to have support staff. Yes. And it's not just something you just hand over to an AI. Many companies have tried that, and it doesn't sound like it's ready.
Failed miserably at it. Yes.
Yeah. Can you talk about like that time of your life when you were working in support and continuing to learn programming?
Yeah, and listen, I have the biggest and deepest respect and admiration for people who work in support. There is no hardest job, honestly. Like, there just isn't. It's so tough. Everyone's problems are the absolute most important problems to them, right? So you have to bring that sort of energy and empathy to every conversation you have. And I have stories, but I'm glad I did it though, because for one, it opened the door to many more opportunities, being able to do that and prove that I could technically assist, which, again, coming from the non-traditional background, there is always my own self-imposed imposter syndrome, but also the perception that is like, well, are you going to be able to help this customer? Do you truly understand? So it was great, because that time I think really like sort of made concrete that I had the technical skills needed for the industry. And then again, having the superpowers of other things, being able to have the empathy and being able to bring all of my life experiences into how I treated support helped. Because I honestly, I had the same concern for a customer that was a paid customer as I was a free customer, as I was someone on the internet tweeting at GitHub help. I felt like everyone had to take a moment from doing what they wanted to do because they had to tell us something was wrong. And that, to me, how I could stop that friction. Like I took a lot of pride in being able to do that and helping people. So I enjoyed it. It was an adventure. Would I want to be in support now? Absolutely not. Like, it's just there's people that are still in support that I actually work with, and be it at GitHub or other companies. Some folks have just that heart that they truly enjoy that and they love it. And I did to a degree, right? But I don't know if it's like I just have to have like continuous quest or being able to see side quests from beginning to end. But like it's harder for me to close loops, I think. And so when you get a ticket, you help the person, you get your rating, and then you're done. And I'm like, I always want to go into these holes of like, why did that happen in the first place? And how can we make it so it never happens again? So I need to kind of look outside of that. But it was a great experience. And we got to remember that behind everything that you typed, everything that you put out there is a person, and that person used to be me, that had to read it. So remember that before you make a support inquiry next time. That person used to be me, and sometimes, boy. But support at GitHub was not like support at Amazon. That's a whole different story. That's a whole different experience.
Well, I mean, if you could compare and contrast, like if somebody were looking to work in support while they're continuing to expand their skills, because I do think there are those like lifer support people that just like working support, but for everybody who just sees support as a means to get their foot into a door at a tech company, like what are some things that you think would be like flags, like red flags, like, oh, you don't necessarily want to work as support at this company, or they're not prioritizing support, they're not giving people enough resources. Like what are some things that people should look out for that are both good indicators and bad indicators that would maybe say, oh, maybe this isn't the right company for me?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. And also, brilliant point. And I know amazing people. Shout out to Julian Duque, who's now at Salesforce. He's a principal developer advocate now, or he might be distinguished. I don't know, Julian. You probably got promoted already and I missed it. Also started as a support person. I think I know several people in the industry that was sort of their first steps into the career that they wanted to have for whatever reasons. For me, I needed to legitimize my technical skills, and that was one way I did it. Because then, obviously, I'm the face of like I am troubleshooting this. I'm fixing problems. I'm finding the bugs. I'm following the chain of reporting. I'm actually sometimes quickly implementing the fixes myself. That was important for me at the time. I'd say it depends on where you want to be, where you want to go. If you see support as a means to be able to get the experience that you need to do the thing that you really want to do, take the job. I think a lot of us sometimes get into this weird, and my God, I preach about this a ton, especially now. I sound like the meme that is like back in my day, but for real. We all want to apply to be CEOs of the company. Like, you're not the CEO of the company. You got to start somewhere, right? And maybe one day you will be. I love this picture going around of Satya Nadella, that he was like the product marketing for Excel when he started at Microsoft. Hysterical. Now, he's the CEO of the $1 trillion company. But you have to start somewhere. So having the humility to understand that you can't just walk in from the street, especially if you're still learning, but give yourself the opportunity to prove what you're made of, to learn, to learn. If you want to be a self-starter, if you want to be a founder, take the support job. Why not? Go learn somebody else's dime, like make mistakes with their money, and then you go off and start your own thing and apply all those lessons. So just look at what it is that you want to take the job. If it's like, this is the project I want to be in, maybe this is the company I want to work at, but they don't have the role that I think I'll be excellent at. So it's more an aspirational, like, let me get in there and prove myself. I go for it. Now, if you're joining a company that is like a huge tech company, one of the FANGs, and you don't have that sort of clear path in your head, what it is that I'm trying to get out of this job. If you're going to be a lifer and what they're offering you is good, and you see that you speak to people that are senior in the company in that same sort of role, and they've been there for 15 years, they're going to be there forever, then that's the place for you. But it's more about what you want to get out of the situation really than the company itself. Because for some people, they might be ready for go be the one. My God, I seen a role recently that's like, support, marketing, DevRel. I mean, it was like 5 different jobs made into one. And I'm like, they are smoking something. But you know what? There is a person out there that's like, I'm ready to go in this startup and grind it and just get it done because means to an end. I want to get here and I'm going to use this time for that. So I think it's more important that you look at what it is that you want to get out of that situation. But massive shout out to the support people because my gosh, they do the Lord's work every day.
Well, how did you go about transitioning to other roles within GitHub? Because that's like the big dream of people, is that they don't have to go right back onto the job market and start applying again, that they can pivot within their current company, the pivot jobs. And that is like probably the least stressful and often the most successful type of career move you can make. Is you're still working at the same company. You still are working with similar tools that you've already gotten pretty well acquainted with, supporting them, and now you're going to be working on helping build out additional functionality through like working as a product manager. Can you talk about that transition?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think and that's sort of like part one of a 2-part gripe that I have, but now with the way that I see some folks working now, I think there is a epidemic lack of ownership right now in your roles. Like one thing that I tell this to my boys all the time, and I'm like, I don't care what career path you choose. It doesn't have to be glamorous. You know, if whatever you want to do, if your thing is, I don't know, growing orchids, go be the best orchid grower, learn everything there is about orchids, but take ownership and pride in what you're doing. I see a lack of that now. So a lot of people, they hone into, this is my laterals of my job. And all I'm allowed to do is open this ticket, read it, reply, and be done with it. But you are a whole human being. You have opinions, you have experience. As you're learning, you might bring perspectives into the room that were never even considered. I think I shot myself in the foot a lot earlier in my career because I didn't advocate for myself enough, given my voice the value that it had at the time. So for me, I was always outside of the scope of what my job was, right? Like I was always looking for opportunities to collaborate cross-organizationally with people. Like you wouldn't believe, I feel like into this day, it's like when you're in the army, you want the cafeteria people, like the people who run the chow hall, to be your friends because they're going to hook you up and throw you that extra piece of chicken, right? Let me tell you something. You want the support people to be your friend at your organization because when your customer, when your lead, when whatever is, you're doing a trial, you're trying to close the deal and they hit a roadblock, and that's going to be your first point of entry. That's going to be the person that can actually 9 times out of 10 solve the problem for you. So it's, you want to be the person that gets out there, talks to people. And I did a lot of that. I always sort of was looking into community in ways that I could, hey, I learned this thing in support. How can I tell people about it? Because you might not even know that. Your customer might be having the same problem, but you don't know. You're not in Zendesk looking at thousands of tickets. You're not having to churn through this, have this conversation. So I felt like I had so much knowledge and power, and I wanted to share it. And leaning in community and being, again, freeCodeCamp and community, open source, the 3 things that made my career, I'm like, I'm going to talk about it. So I did a lot of things that were outside of the scope of what my role was, you know, when there was an opportunity to collaborate with product, when there was an opportunity to collaborate with DevRel. When I finally joined DevRel, eventually one of the posts in Slack were like, weren't you always DevRel? And I was like, I guess I was. I mean, because it was just like the lines were so blurred because I was always kind of finding the opportunity for me to get myself in those rooms and have the conversations. And listen, you're coming at it with the data and the knowledge and the technical skill. So it's not just oh, I'm going to make myself part of this conversation. It's no, I actually have something important to say, and it might actually make your job easier. So let's talk about it. So if you're looking at it as a path to another career inside your company, start looking at what those people that are in those roles, how can you, from the position that you're in, benefit them? Again, you want your best friend to be the childhood person. You want your best friend to be the support person too. No matter what you're doing, you can bring value to those other roles. And it's about like kind of going outside your comfort zone and taking ownership. Like, this is what I wanted. I did it out of curiosity mostly because, again, that's why I think I was in a lifer and support, because I wanted to know why. Well, and if it was something that, let's say we deprecated a service, my gosh, I was going to go ask people, and the audacity of me, Quincy, because I had no business asking questions like that.
Well, your customers are asking that, right? The people you're entering, why is this deprecated? What the heck?
Exactly.
Well, it's good for you to have an answer in the back pocket you can pull out.
Exactly.
And not just be like, I don't know.
Exactly.
It's above my pay grade. I can never understand why people's curiosity starts and ends with their proverbial pay grade.
Exactly. So I think that was something that for me was like, I always was looking outside of like, okay, and we made that decision because of this. So let's dig back and sometimes having those conversations actually help inform some of the decisions that were being made around me. And I'm like, well, heck, I guess I do have something important to bring. I guess that experience and that knowledge and power and that empathy for the community do benefit this business after all. So it wasn't like a super smooth out transition. Like, to be 1,000% honest, I was looking at other places outside of GitHub because I started to have those conversations with myself where it's like, okay, are you in a cycle, in a loop of convenience? I could have stayed there. I could have stayed in support, but I'm like, I was itching. I was doing so much more that I felt like I want to do it, not just like, I love doing things like that for my community, and I will do that till the last day of my career. It doesn't matter, your meetup have 1 person or 1,000. If you ask me to come, I'm going to come. But when it comes to a role and a job in a company that's making money out of your efforts, I felt like, okay, well, this needs to be represented into like what I'm paid, what opportunities are there for me. So I did look outside of GitHub, and I was fortunate that I had people in GitHub that when it came time for me to like really take a hard look at, am I going to stay, am I going to go, we're like, no, let's talk about what you want to do. So massive shout out to Martin Woodward, VP of Developer Relations, who will not let me leave. But I'm grateful for that, though, honestly. And again, it might not be, I'm privileged that was my experience. But I think that privilege comes from putting myself outside of my comfort zone and stretching what it was that was I own. I think I never said that. That's about my pay grade. I always say, let's go look into it and figure it out. And sometimes I get an answer. Sometimes I get an answer that pisses me off. Sometimes I get no answer at all. But I always had the audacity to ask and follow that curiosity. And I think that's key, especially if you're looking to move around and seek opportunities. And then talking to people too, it's so hard, especially if you're remote to kind of create those liaisons and start getting people to like see it through, okay, this is a person that maybe could work with me. Or maybe, let's see how we can have those conversations. Let's see if maybe there's something. If you're lucky, you'll find somebody that can sort of help guide that path. And if not, then you go look outside the roles, and then hopefully somebody like a Martin will come by and say, hey, we should retain this person. Yeah. That's what happened.
Yeah. So if I had to summarize many of the like tactics you used, maybe unconsciously, just by virtue of being curious. 1, be curious. 2, like by being curious, you're kind of greatly enhancing your understanding of how these systems work, right? It's one thing to just have like some stock answer that you're supposed to give, read from a script or something, have some copy paste thing that you do as a support tech. But it's another to actually be able to call upon like, oh yeah, a few years back, this changed and then this changed. And now that's why this API is deprecated because they want you to move over to this new API that's like way more secure or that is way faster or we integrated all the APIs. So now you can just use the same API for everything. You just need to use this call instead of this old one. Here, I can help you rewrite this API call. Like there are a lot of things you can do in support that go beyond just parroting some answer that could have been found on some wiki somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing is proactively meeting other people and trying to figure out while you're talking to them, how might I be able to help this person? And that's something I try to do as well when I talk to people is I'm listening to what they're saying, but I'm also thinking like, do I know somebody who might be helpful to this person? Or is there a book I could recommend to this person, or some sort of advice that somebody's given me that might be helpful for this person in this moment, in where they are, and like proactively kind of thinking, not just empathizing with them, but also trying to like extrapolate out where they might be able to go if they were to take a different route, and then propose that to them, like being fearless. Like you talked about, just not being afraid of calling it like you saw it, and being critical. It's very easy to just say, oh, I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to upturn the apple cart or anything like that. I'm just going to not rock the boat, and I'm just going to stay quiet and nod and smile, right? But those types of people aren't necessarily recognized and recalled when it comes time for, we need somebody who can do X, Y, Z. Oh yeah, she's very, opinionated, and that's a good thing. Let's bring her in and see what she thinks about this, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like those were some of the recipes, some of the ingredients in your career change.
Oh yeah, for sure. And always from a point of view of humility, like honestly, like I never pretended to know what I didn't know, and I encourage people to do the same. One thing that also developers are really good at is calling out bullshit. So you want to lose somebody's trust quickly, pretend to talk about something you have no idea what you're talking about. I'd much rather have egg in my face and tell you, you know what, I need to look into this because I have no idea. And then because I know I have those fundamentals, I know how to learn, I know I can figure it out, but I'm never going to lie to you and pretend to have a knowledge or understand the requirement, or if it's not within my scope. So having that humility to acknowledge when you don't know something and you need to go figure it out also has been key.
Awesome. Yeah, I would certainly second that, because you learn very quickly when you're trying to get into the field. If you don't know what you're talking about, you're just digging yourself in deeper and deeper. They're going to start peppering you with lots of questions about a subject, and eventually the jig will be up and people will realize, so why didn't you just say you didn't know what XYZ is? Why did we just talk for like 3 minutes about this and you were pretending that you knew it? Like, I can't trust you to be forthcoming about, your own ignorance in different areas where one could expect you to be ignorant. That's fine. It's okay to not know. It's not okay to pretend that you know.
Exactly.
And yeah. So that's an important life skill. If anybody listening to this hasn't had that experience, count yourself lucky and don't have that experience. Do as I say, don't do as I did. Because I have made that mistake before, and it was embarrassing.
And, for sure. And I think a lot of times, like, you feel like and I still sometimes I got to remind myself, I'm like, but what if they say you're supposed to know that? Well, shit, what if I feed them some bullshit line? And, you got to catch yourself, because a lot of it comes from also having that perpetual, do I deserve to be here? Oh my God, they're going to find out and I'm fired.
Yeah.
My career is over.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Oh my God. I wish we stopped that. We got to.
It's just part of the human condition. I think everybody just has to inoculate themselves from it by hearing lots of people like you talk. And hopefully, like, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I wrote about it in my book. Just Google Learn to Code book, and you can find my book. It's free. You can read the whole thing. You can listen to audiobook episode 100 of me talking about it. And I dedicate a lot of it to talking about imposter syndrome and my own journey into tech. It's a real thing. I want to fire off some quick questions toward the end of our conversation here.
Let's do it.
So there are currently about 50 million native level Spanish speakers. It's like 45 to 50 million here in the US.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people who use Spanish as their main language to communicate with their families at home. And most of those people are probably bilingual English, Spanish like you are. But what are some advantages that you think being a bilingual Spanish English speaker, doors that those have opened to you over the years, working in support and doing other things?
Oh my gosh, I love this question, because part of doing the things that wasn't part of my job, like I was able to do some of those things because I was a native Spanish speaker. So when we're starting to look at things like, oh well, maybe we should localize this, maybe we should, I was actually able to do, like, come in and say, okay, yeah, let me proofread it. Let me make sure that it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. We started to do a lot of outreach and content to LATAM, and there was nobody that was doing that in an intentional way. But oh, hello, I speak Spanish. I've been trying to learn Portuguese, and I say trying because, gosh, it is so hard to learn a language as an adult. It's difficult. Shout out to all of you who are showing up every day trying to learn a new language because, my goodness, it's difficult. But I think it definitely rounded what I could bring to any conversation. And beyond the language, one thing that I think we don't take enough credit for, people who are from different cultures, maybe you came to the US from, I don't know, whatever it might be, Africa, India, whatever. You bring also a wealth of knowledge beyond your language that is your cultural experience. Because the way we talk to developers and businesses in Latin America is not the same way we talk to developers and businesses in San Francisco. And this is a hard lesson that a lot of companies that are trying to expand outside their usual markets are having to learn. So I was able to bring that with me too. Oh, by the way, I also know that when we go and talk to this whatever it is, this team, we can just come in hot and no, and it's all cultural beyond the language. You bring that with you. For people who are listening to this and or watching this and they're Colombian, you know what I mean. You can't just walk into somebody's office and do a brain dump. You need to come in and ask them how their day is, how they had their coffee, how is everything. This is just the way we are. Like we can, and it will take you a lot farther in life if you understand those cultural nuances. So knowing the language definitely opened doors for me because I was able to bring that and say, oh, guess what? This thing that we're thinking about doing it, we can also do it in Spanish. And now we're going to reach, instead of one person, we'll reach two, maybe even three. So that definitely helped. I think leaning on it as a strength. One thing that I was very self-conscious of, I'm still very self-conscious of, is my accent. And I let it be a crutch for a very long time. I remember the first conference talk I give, a lot of my nerves were about, would people be able to understand me? And is my accent too thick? And it was, coincidentally enough, I think it was in English, but it was in a Spanish-speaking place. So I had been speaking Spanish the entire time I was there, up to the moment where I got on the center. I'm like, oh my God, the accent's gonna be thick. And I let that stop me from putting myself out there because I was afraid that people wouldn't take me seriously or they would say that they couldn't understand me. And what a dumb thing to do. I wish I could take that back, honestly, because I think it actually, if anything, it made it more remarkable. It made you remember it, you know? I still say words that even my kids take a piss at me sometimes when they're like, what? And I love it for them because I'm like, yeah, your privilege of your English as a first language. But still, they still call me out. I'm like, I might have made that word up. It's okay. I'll own it. Or maybe that's not how you pronounce something, but I'm a lot less self-conscious of it now. But I definitely don't let that be a crutch to you. If you have something to say, if you're passionate about your field, if you know the thing, say the thing. Even if you're afraid that, you might need to explain it a little further. Even if I used to be deeply offended when people would say, repeat yourself. I'm like, I'm going to repeat myself 3 times because when we leave this conversation, you're going to know this. Like before, are you kidding me? I would just crawl in a hole and cry. You're like, oh, never going to be speaking like that. No, but I think if anything, it's a superpower, honestly. I think it's also, and there's got to be studies about this, about the way you learn when you are a person who speaks multiple languages. The way that your brain operates is different. I think it's a superpower. You should 100% lean into it. Even if you work at a place that has no need for that skill at the time, guarantee you, any business, no matter what business it is, it's always seeking opportunity to have more business, to reach more people. And you bring cultural nuance and language that can do that for that business. So lean into that for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, and since you mentioned your kids giving you a hard time about your pronunciation, let's talk about your kids. So you have 2 kids
Yes.
who are slightly older than my kids. Are they, did you say 9 and 13?
Yeah, I have a teenager now, officially.
Yeah.
I don't even know how it happened.
And I'm curious, what are you doing to prepare them? Obviously, there are new AI tools. You can just go have your LLM write your book report, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't want to read this giant essay that my teacher gave me. I'll just have GPT summarize it, or I'll have Claude summarize it, or what are you doing about that in terms of raising your kids, and how are you having them approach these tools, since you know a lot more about these tools than the ordinary person who hasn't worked in tech for so long?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a challenge for every parent right now. I think most of us are thinking about this, how it's affecting education, how it's going to affect their future, right? at a macro level, right? Like the world, but also like, are you gonna be able to learn things? And it's interesting. In my household, is a little bit interesting because my 13-year-old has very strong opinions about AI, and I can actually have conversations about AI and ethics with them, which is really interesting. When the first like those. What's the name of the studio that it was this Japanese anime? What made like ChatGPT basically?
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, the Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, when they first started, and that became very very viral, very trending. I mean, I don't know, it's been like 2 years now. My kid was barely 11, and boy, did we have a very long and opinionated conversation about that because they found it appalling. So it's super interesting, and I've heard critiques of my son of their teachers like, oh, I think it's so clear that this lesson plan was spread out by ChatGPT, and that to me, I think is a success. I'm not shielding you from the tools, but I'm giving you a full understanding of what they do, what they can't do, and how they can affect you. And the fact that you can discern what is and what is not, I think like, okay, great. Like you're growing with a full rounded version of what the new reality is. I think it'd be ludicrous for us to pretend that AI is not going to be a part of education, and to shield kids from these tools is not going to help them live in the real world, which they're going to enter when they leave school or leave your house, etc. But giving them the full understanding of how things work and helping them apply that curiosity, then they can make the decisions of how much they want to use it or how much they're technically allowed to use it or not. But I think it's been great to be able to have those conversations with, a little kid, and understand that they feel about it in a certain way, that I disagree on some of the points, but I agree on some others, but you're forming your opinions based on having a broad understanding. And you have that broad understanding because you are exposed to the tools, you're using the tools, and you're plugged in. It's the only way. I think as parents, sometimes we don't want to have those conversations and look at the hard things because it freaking sucks. I'd much rather we all live in a bubble and protect you from everything and give you all the opportunities and all the privilege, but that's not the reality. And my path is not going to be their path, I don't think. Boy, have I tried. We used to be, we were in a great vibe with Python and is it Sprout? What's the MIT?
Scratch.
Scratch, yes, Scratch.
Yes.
Oh, we vibe with that for years, and I was like, yes, this is gonna be my little engineer. It's happening now. Could not be more removed from it. Does not care one bit. Sometimes they'll see cool things, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. For the most part, it's like, yeah, no, that bores me. So it's kind of interesting, though. I don't expect them to follow my path in any way, but I do want them to have all the opportunities. And part of giving them that opportunities is exposing them to all the tools and giving them enough confidence in their own skill, their own critical thinking, to know when they should use it and when they shouldn't. I think that's one thing that we're lacking. It's either all in or all out. No. You can make those decisions. And that's one thing I'm definitely trying to help that I impart in them. Like, you too could do this. I had a conversation with my youngest on a couple of weeks ago. Wanted to play Roblox all day, every day during the week. It was a week I was out. These conversations that I'm sure parents with kids will get this right now. I told him, this is terrific. I hear your points. I want you to write me a 2-page essay that explains to me all your points, break it apart. Thinking this will be a deterrent. And they will be like, you know what? Never mind. You say I don't play during the week, I don't play during the week. Well, the kid sat down and wrote a 2-page essay.
Challenge accepted.
And made excellent points. For some of it later turned into kind of bullying. Like at the end, I think he was fed up with writing, so he was like, and I think I deserve it. And I'm like, this is not an argument. So he wrote this thing. And with excellent grammar, without ChatGPT. And I'm like, okay, well, my 9-year-old can do this. This is fantastic. Took it in consideration, read it, understood it. We did our little council, me and his dad, and then I came back to him with my answer. My answer is still no, I'm sorry. I don't think it's good for your brain. I think you need time to absorb other things, other types of information. I want you to spend that time reading during the week, during the weekend. Go for it, buddy. The kid looks at me, Quincy, and says, well, you require me to write you a 2-page essay asking for this. So I think your explanation as to why not should come in the form of a 2-page essay.
Oh my goodness.
So what did I do?
The Uno reverse card.
I sat down and I wrote the kid a 2-page answer stating the points of why I thought that this, your brain is developing and I'm making these decisions for you now because you're not blah, blah, blah. And I had to do it. It was only fair, right? But joking aside, it's just, It's interesting. Kids are so resilient, and they have like so much curiosity and exposure to things now. And I think shielding them from that is not the way. I think it's more making sure that they have the confidence in their own knowledge, their own understanding, their own brilliantness. I think about hive mind a lot. I started watching this show Pluribus. Pluribus, I don't know if you've seen it. It's like, it's wow, it's on Apple TV. But anyways, it's all about the hive mind. Like the whole world has suddenly become one, and it solved a lot of problems, but you also lost you. And I
Yeah.
think about that, about how we're using tools now a lot. And I think about my kids, but seeing them be like independently opinionated about things because they're being able to see that. They see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they're like, okay, I want to make the decisions. Like, I love it. You got to expose them to things. But it's tough, though. It's a hard time to be a parent, for sure. I didn't grow up exposed to half the things these kids are. We're so connected, and it's so difficult. And our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. It's tough. It's tough to be a kid learning now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the attention span thing, and then also just the critical thinking, like it's so easy to get somebody else's opinion. I can go and find somebody writing an argument, and I could just adopt that as my opinion. Oh, they're right. They make good points. Okay, that's what I believe now. But to actually have people thinking for themselves and making decisions based on their own reasoning and pushing back, like it sounds like your kids are not afraid of authority. They're not afraid of arguing with mom, and that is great. And I hope my kids continue to be as uppity and pushy and.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I love
This is
it.
great. This is great. Honestly, like and I think they're gonna be okay though. Like they're gonna be okay. I'm less concerned from that generation that I'm from ours.
Yeah.
I honestly am.
Yeah, because they grew up with the tools, but we're having to adopt them. It's kind of like
Exactly.
the criticism of like older people, I guess, like in their 60s and 70s, they didn't grow up with the internet, so they're like less likely to understand what is a phishing attack and things like that. But we grew up with those, so we're familiar with those. But we're not familiar with, all sorts of new things that are going to come out, or we're not habituated to them in
Exactly.
the way that the kids are that are like digital natives and stuff like that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have one more question for you. I've really enjoyed like hearing about your parenting, but you made a lot of major life decisions, but one of the decisions, of course, joining the military, like you got out of the military, you're like 21 years old, 22, and you've got your entire future ahead of you. Like if you could send some advice back to yourself at that point in time, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
Ooh, I love this. I think about this question like what I would say to myself then. I'm going to do two answers. Sorry, Quincy. I hope we had time.
Yeah, no worries. I'm excited to hear them.
Because the advice is like a two-parter, right? Like I think the first one at the time, when I first came out and I started looking at it, and one thing that I did have by then was the privilege of optimism of living in a place like America, like the US, and thinking I can really be anything I want. Like that's something that was a mindset that I did not have ever growing up. I could never see beyond like what was right in front of me. So having that sort of possibility, like, that was amazing. That was amazing. That being said, in a way, that kind of makes it a lot more difficult for you to pick the path that you're the most true to because there is so much, right? I think about it now, like kids are thinking about like, what's my major gonna be? What am I gonna do when I grow up? I'm like, do all the things. But I think at some point you do start sort of figuring out what it is that your heart, like what is it that your heart desires? What is it that you feel like if I was doing this, it will feel like I'm fulfilling something that's higher than I'm getting a paycheck. And that's not everyone's jam. And I love folks like, my gosh, I wish I was motivated by some things that some people are because it probably would have made my life easier in a lot of ways. But to me, I got to have that meaning behind what I do. And that's something that I was too stubborn to realize and too tied up into this whimsical idea that the world is my oyster, I can do anything. I wish I've honed in that deeper understanding of what mattered to me then, to value my time, to value what I bring to places, a lot more. I think if I really stopped and thought, okay, well, what is it about what I'm doing right this moment that makes me feel the best, that I feel like I'm leaving the most impact in? Because those are the things that matter to me. That's my value. That's my format and values. If your format and values is money, then think about that. What's going to make me the most money? So, it's not so much about like, you don't have to be idealistic about it, but more about being true to yourself. I wasn't true to myself for a very long time in my early 20s. I made a lot of very poor decisions in relationships and life that were just all chasing sort of this, I see so much opportunity, I should just do all these things. But at the end of the day, they were not fulfilling. I didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything with my life to be meaningful the way that it mattered to me. So take a moment to pause and stop and think about what it is that truly matters to you. And then based on that answer, start thinking about how you can apply that in your life. And again, hey, I'm Team Get Paid. If it is to be a multi-billionaire by the age you're 30, go for it. Do the things that can help you get there. But if you find fulfillment in other things, then be brave enough to admit it and start making the changes that you need to make. Don't stay in situations that are not the best for you simply because you think you're supposed to follow somebody else's definition of success or somebody else's experience. That's one part for like little baby can barely drink Andrea at 21. And then grown up Andrea, who's now in tech and having opportunities that I thought were absolutely insane. Like, in a million years, I'm sitting here talking to you. What? When? That was never. It's wild. I think I sent you like a README profile GitHub did of me like in like 2018 or something. And I wrote about FreeCodeCamp in that because I was like, this is why I love FreeCodeCamp, because I've always been eternally grateful for what the platform has done for me. And I would have never guessed that I will have the opportunity to shake your hand, meet you in person, and then be here talking to you. I think I sold my search short a lot when I started to be given opportunities. At this point, I was so sort of nervous that, well, my foot is in the door, and I still didn't believe in my voice enough to be assertive enough about what I deserved. And I think it's a position that you put yourself in when you're maybe career switching. Maybe you think you finally got that dream job. But no matter what, you're there for a reason. They hire you for a reason. They're asking your opinion for a reason. Like, value your voice. Value your voice. I wish I had that. I think it would have helped me, like, negotiating salary, negotiating things that I was just like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'll just take anything. Now I'm like, please, if you're negotiating a salary, hit me up. I'm happy to have this conversation with you. Because honestly, it was a hard lesson to learn that I didn't give my voice the worth that it had at the time. And it's taken me years to realize, like, I've done a ton of things that I always feel like I want to give opportunity. I related to your story earlier about how being a connector is so important, because to me, I'm always thinking like that. I might not know about this, but I might know a person that can help you with that. And I love doing that. I love giving platform to my community. And almost to a detriment, because I think sometimes people are surprised when they see how I'm more technical than they expect. And they're like, wow, I haven't seen you. I'm like, because I don't want to be the one that's talking about this. I want you to go talk about it so that they can see how awesome you are. Give your voice the value that it deserves. That's why I just started a newsletter based on that same kind of logical thinking, because I'm like, well, nobody's saying it. So what are you going to do? Not say it? Well, go say it then. You have the know-how, you have the ability and the skill. Go say it. So value your voice at any point in your career. You have so much to bring. Your perspective is so important. And when we're building software, sometimes we forget that it's that diversity of thought that makes it great and resilient, that diversity of experience, regardless. If you're coming new into a field, you still have something to bring from your old field that can bring so much value to where you're at. So stop and think about what's important to you. Like, truly think what's going to make your heart happy and content, and then value your voice when you start getting the opportunities, because you're in the room for a reason. You didn't sneak in there. You earned your way there. So value yourself.
You're in the room for a reason. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Value your voice. Stopping and thinking about what you want to do. These are all excellent pieces of advice for everybody listening. If you haven't already put in the time and energy to think about what really matters to you, not what society thinks is important, status or fame or money or whatever. But if it like accomplishments that matter to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so helpful. Thank you so much, Andrea Griffiths, for coming on the FreeCodeCamp podcast.
Thank you so much for my career, Quincy Larson.
We're all very proud of you. Everybody like that I talked to on Bo Carnes, Raphael Hernandez, who interviewed you. We're all very proud to call you a Free Code Camp alumna. And thank you for everything you're doing for the community as well.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, until next week, happy coding.